Blair made this, so it's a good one.
Dang, I almost forgot May was Mental Health Month, and I remember it every year. But in closing out, as we're about to approach June and summer officially, a couple things I just wanted to get off my chest and to make light of, and I decided to do the audio because I think sometimes we get so invested with the internet and social media and YouTube and all these things, which of course this will be on somewhere, but just to point out, in the era of digital, in the era of social media, in the era of microwaving, and the era of being seen then heard, I want to bring back inspiration and connecting with one another on a spiritual level. I was sitting here looking at this video that someone sent me. It was Hardly Initiated podcast, and they was talking to a pastor, Jamal. I forgot his last name. Please forgive me, but he was talking about how men, or even just women in general, people, we're so committed to ourselves that when we're in a relationship, we don't want to sacrifice. And even in consistency, I'ma stand on communication matters, consistency matters, but they are not the key to a great I'm not gonna say great. They're not the key to a relationship. Commitment is. I grew up in the '90s, and there wasn't a lot of talks about mental health. We was just saying, okay, we just calling things for what it was, like ADD or crazy or whatnot. But everything's a mental health because everything starts in the mind, and sometimes even our spiritual beliefs and our spiritual being can get lost because our mind isn't there. I believe that our minds and our hearts need to be on one accord. Because look, the heart can be deceitful, the eyes can be deceitful. It's not about how we feel all the time. Sometimes you have to have faith, but mentally, when you're used to something, when you have adapted to certain things, your mind is going to be made up with different chemicals, with different perspectives, and it's okay to be individuals. But I like to always acknowledge that when you're not able to connect with someone on a spiritual level, then you have to check your mentality. Because again, the devil's also spiritual. So I say this all the time, I will consider myself a Christian. I'm a believer, and I'll even go as far as saying that I'm a follower. Though I don't always follow the steps that God ordered for me to follow because of my spiritual warfare and my mentality. But that's not necessarily what I'm really trying to share with y'all right now. What I want to share and express once again is we have to get our minds right. Nobody's perfect, but that's no excuse for us to just be reckless. Nobody's perfect, but that's no excuse for us to hold ourselves accountable and be responsible. Nobody's perfect, but that's no excuse for us to just be making impulsive decisions about every single thing. Regardless of whether you're single, regardless of if you're married, regardless of if you don't have children, regardless of if you have multiple children. Sometimes, most times than not, we have to consider, use our critical thinking skills, use our wisdom, the gift that God gave us all. One thing that God blessed us all with, whether we realize it or use it or not, is discernment. How many people have experienced certain things in their life that they didn't like or didn't agree with, but it still happened? How many times have we been in failed relationships, but that didn't allow us to go to another team? That didn't allow us to, stop dating. That didn't allow us to, become cruel and vile. When we focus on the people who do that, when we focus on the things that are highlighted, that's the trick of the enemy. We're so caught up in the now. We're so caught up in what the overall masses believe and think, we can subconsciously acquire that same mentality. Someone who's been easily influenced. Even to this day, I'm easily influenced sometimes because I care. I point myself to Cancer Care Bear because I'm someone who genuinely cares. And sometimes it's hurtful and sometimes it's hard because when it's not reciprocated, you really recognize it. And sometimes I would feel unappreciated. But it's just all mental. I know the people who care about me. I know the people who love me unconditionally. I know the people who are there. But it goes back again to wanting things when we want them. Maybe I can count on one hand as far as my energy. So when sorry, I got interrupted. make note of in my mind, but I forget. That's something anyway. There's certain things that I see that ignites the thoughts, good or bad. That's something mentally. When I'm in company of a woman and we're in communication and I'm attracted to her, whether she's attracted or not, there's certain things that I might feel or might believe, and just by being her company, that's something mentally. Even when we are spiritually connecting with someone, when we're in church, like a feeling, there's a feeling. There's a feeling. There's something in our spirit. There's something that we feel physically. That's something mentally. Feed minds, touch hearts. That's one of my first mottos from back when I was still trying to be a MySpace rapper, something that I still use to this day. Encourage the discouraged. That's something mentally. So when I think about my relationships I have with people, whether they're professional, romantic, platonic, casual, something in my mind tells me this is what this is. There's discernment that allows me to put certain people under certain lines. When I was a single bachelor, there was something in me mentally that I felt. So my point is, like, everything starts in the mind. Like, when I think about certain things, the dopamine, the influences, when I think about certain things that might cause me to think negatively, think positively, I always reflect and say, why do I think this? Why do I believe this? And sometimes I can't explain it. Every day is a blessing. A lot of times our feelings can be impulsive. They're temporary. Like going back again to, being in the company of a woman that I can be attracted to. I mean, I'm still a man. I'm gonna admit that my first thoughts don't go to sex. My first thought don't go to commitment. But what I do think about is, how can I form a strong connection with this person. How? Why? Is that normal? Natural? It's certain things in our minds that pushes us to be a little bit more thoughtful. You know, I want to I want y'all to keep this in mind when we're thinking about mental health. And I know, unfortunately, sadly, that not everybody kind of cares that much about that, but to each his own. There's a lot of things that I believe and stand for that a lot of people don't. That doesn't mean that it's not true, and vice versa. But I try to be a good example of good character, good judgment, good intentions, just being a good person overall, despite how I might feel on the inside. Because there are some unwanted thoughts and feelings that we all have as human beings. It's I don't even want to say it's natural, but it is definitely there. You know, the algorithm in our minds are a lot worse than it is online. One simple thing can be a trigger. Whenever I'm walking, crossing the street, it's triggering because I think about how a homie of mine died from a hit and run. And even before this, but it's like this was one that was direct. Like, you know, I knew this person, and I seen that, you know, people come together and celebrate and mourn him. You know, because like I always say, I say this to a lot of people that I ride with. When I'm not driving, it's like, hey, you might know how to drive, but that doesn't mean nobody else is going to drive. And things happen too. It's unfortunate, it's sad that sometimes we can make mistakes or do things that we had no intentions on doing, but then there's no type of remorse or come to the altar moment. I haven't followed up much as far as if anyone turned themselves in or caught it, but it's just one of these things that I think about. You know, I think about, I never thought about taking my life, like, in a sense where I'm going to do it. Like, I never attempted to take my life. It was a thought, but just like most thoughts, some thoughts are, they come up for a reason. And the best way that I can even explain it is because this is things that happen. I'm sure we all are familiar with Robin Williams. I can't even discuss that without bringing up what he contributed to our lives had a lot of great movies, and I always say sometimes some of his more serious roles that's not a comedy or something that's like maybe family oriented or something. It's like those movies are great. But all in all, at the end of the day, I want us to consider other people when we're considering ourselves, because whether we want to acknowledge it or not, this world, our whole way of living, doesn't consist on just you. If you're someone who likes to travel, it's not just, hey, my body's tickets, stay in this hotel, Airbnb, and that's it. But we are not factoring in that there are people on the other side that have to put all those other pieces together. Yeah, everything is AI now. Everything is, computer. But imagine, and maybe this is just me just thinking too deep into it, but it's like, imagine me trying to get on a trip, me going on a trip, and then I'm just like, okay, I want to go to the casino, I want to go to the beach, I want to go to the bar, I want to go to the day party, I want to go here, but I'm not thinking about certain things like, it's like I'm not doing my due diligence sometimes, because unfortunate things happen. Sure, we can't control what other people do. We can't control, what how people respond to us. But everybody has a job. Watch how we move. Think about I want to think about the things that we want, the things that we need, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get out of our own way, and it takes a lot to get out of our own way. Because I always express that, hey, you're going to be who you're going to be. You can't always think about people, which is true, but it's like, I have lived my life, my whole 36 years of life, just trying to be a good person. I don't even think it has anything to do with the way I was raised. That's just who I am. That's just the person that I am. Yeah, I got spankings. I got discipline. I've done things that were wrong. I've done things that were stupid. That doesn't take away from the fact that I am a good person. It's just like, hey, you can't, just because you did bad things, don't mean that you're bad. But there are certain things that consist of what's good and what's bad. We all fall short of the glory. But, just looking at it on a mental standpoint, I have to change the way I think. so I can change the way I move. The certain things that I want out of life, the certain things that I need. I have everything I need first and foremost. I have everything I need. But when you factor in other people, that's just sometimes things don't always go your way. I'm not gonna sit here and keep living in the woods and just do whatever I want to in the woods, but it's like the same thing. Like if I live somewhere, say I own a house, I still have to pay on that house. I still have to pay the property taxes. Because what people don't realize is you can own something, but you still have responsibility to what you own. Because there's laws. And without laws, there's no order. So that's the thing, and that's really what I'm trying to get. And as I continue to progress and work on my ability and skill to be a better speaker and a better thinker, I just want our minds to be in order. I just want our minds to be stuck in order. I'm not sitting here saying be one-minded and think like everybody else. What I'm saying is we have to put our minds in the right place and practice it. You want people to treat you right. You want people to do good, treat you better. Sometimes we have to manifest it in our minds first. A lot of people, like I said, we can't control what other people do. We can only control what we do and how we react to certain things. If you can't control certain things, if you can't help what you can't help, then it's like, okay, maybe I should stop complaining. Maybe I should just remove myself from certain situations. Don't even allow myself to get put in that position. That takes some time to, change the way of thinking. You can't do without thinking first. When people say they can't, it's not necessarily that. It's like impulsive, meaning that as I'm doing something, I still need my brain to do it. I might not be thinking about it on a thoughtful, conscious level, but I'm still thinking about it when I'm doing something. I want us as people, especially my melanated folks, black folks, especially in America, to be better thinkers. Because when we're better thinkers, we can be better decision makers. We can be better deliverers, better executors. When we're better executors, we can be better conquerors. We can't always control what we think, but we can definitely monitor it and be able to manage our thoughts in a better light. But it's just something that was on my mind because, I do podcasts and sometimes I just don't know what to say. I have a lot to say. Sometimes I don't know what to say, and it's just like I don't have the energy for it. But it's like it's a lot. Thinking is a lot. Thinking can literally make your brain hurt, and it's a real thing. One thing that I always say is I tell it to my son. You're not gonna, don't lie to me. I'd rather you get in trouble for telling the truth than get in trouble for lying. Because that's two things right there. So I'm not going to punish you for telling me you wanted to go outside outside without my permission, I'm going to punish you for going outside without my permission. Sometimes for it to make sense, you have to think about it. It's like that takes work. I think it's just the work of thought, food for thought. So just in hindsight, everything that I think about, I think about I think about you. I'm tired of seeing. I'm tired of seeing. We are visual learners, but I'm tired of seeing. I want to feel something on a more spiritual level, mentally. That's a mental. But only those who think will understand or will follow me and understood. But happy mental health